Well, everybody, I'm Cantonese Cat. Hey, everybody, Cantonese Cat here. I'm going to talk about the big five buys for Q3 of 2024 for myself. And I'm going to go through in terms of the rationale. I'm not going to talk too much about the fundamentals because I figured out that that's not my strength, even though I am aware of them. I just generally don't like to verbalize them as much. So I'm going to talk about what I think about why they're perfectly good setup. Obviously, none of these things are financial advice. I'm just telling you what I'm doing for Q3 of 2024. I want to show you what happened last time when I did a series like this on X. When I did this back in January 2024, I think this was around like really the first week of January 2024. I did my first five buys. My number one buy was really semiconductor stocks. And a lot of people were really super bearish when we were talking about NVIDIA. And this is when price really just kind of went sideways for about 6 months, going nowhere. And whenever January starts, like this is before we had the run up. It was when I really was starting to get pretty bullish on semiconductor stocks. So I think I started trading when I had like this candle over here. And the price was Nvidia was around 500. I guess after it split around 50s, is more than doubled since then. So I just wanted to show you that that worked out pretty well, right? That was my number one. My number two was Robinhood. My Robinhood buys. I really started loading up around beginning of January all the way through February. Kind of want to show you in terms of what Robinhood did after that. Well, I think if you're following the stock, you would know I saw that very, very bullish setup and I started buying right around here. And my cost average is around $12. And sure enough, things kind of get close to double now, right? So that was my number two. My number three was Metaport. And for Metaport, I had a little bit more like a fundamental talk about this. But regardless, how did that turn out? Let's take a look at what Metaport ended up doing. Well, they ended up having an acquisition. And when I was talking about the stock, price is probably somewhere around $2. It's sure enough, it went down to like $1.80, $1.60. Like it was very demoralizing there for quite some time because it was my number three buy. But next thing you know, it ended up getting a pretty big acquisition. And price went up really, and I've been buying all the way down, obviously, right? And next thing you know, price it went up like tripled because of the acquisition. So that turned out pretty well. Number four, this one didn't really turn out so well, but I really thought that Bitcoin miners was going to have a lot of weakness around Q1 because I just think that was way overextended. For example, if you look at a chart like Mara, I really thought that I was going to be able to take advantage of the weakness that Q1 was going to bring on. Like over here, I thought that things were a little bit too far overextended. So I was going to think about maybe buying through Q1 as long as it has like a reaccumulation range kind of thing. And I ended up buying both in Q1 and Q2. And obviously, my cost average for Mara, like after I ended up buying over here, was going to be higher than where it was now if you keep on buying through here. So if you think about it, it's a little bit more of a fool's errand sometimes. You can't get all of them right, but that was one of my buys, but CleanSpark's also another one of my buys. I was really strong about buying CleanSpark. And my cost average for CleanSpark was around 12 because I kept on averaging up over here, But whenever I was buying it, my average at first was around like $8 or so. So it didn't turn out to be so bad. It really depending on which one you ended up buying, right? So that turned out pretty well. And my final five buy was Ethereum. And that one also turned out very well as well because when I was posting about this, I think it was back in January 2nd, and price for Ethereum was actually quite cheap. You were talking about Ethereum was really closer to about like 2200 or so. So that was a pretty good buy considering price has really gone up by around like 50% since then. And it's not so bad considering it's only been about half a year. Now, what is going to be my five buys for Q3 of 2024? Well, interesting enough, my number five is going to be Ethereum. I'm going to tell you why I feel like I should buy more Ethereum because I feel that the chart continues to look very bullish. You look at a 3-month chart because it's quarterly kind of thing, right? And let's look at a 3-month chart. What is it doing? Well, for the last quarter for Q2, it just formed an inside candle. For Q3, we just have maybe 3 trading days so far. It looks like it's wanting to form an inside candle again. And usually these inside candles are going to favor more bullish continuation, right? Especially if the primary trend tends to be uptrend. Even on the 3-month chart, you can see a lot of whales are in. On the monthly chart, you can also see that so far it's just been really kind of consolidating sideways. You also have a little bit of inside candles over here compared to this candle over here too, right? So whales are in. Overall, it's been making nothing but higher highs and higher lows. And if you also look at Ichimoku cloud, all it's really been doing is just that it broke above the cloud and it back tested the cloud and also back tested the Tenkan line over here. It looks like it wants to go higher and it's just forming a little bit of a consolidation bull flag over here before going higher. So it looks like it's a very, very good setup. Now, you look at the Bollinger Band, you also can see that it's trying to expand. It's got a little bit of a contraction over here because price went sideways for about 5-6 months, but it still looks like it wants to go higher. It's on the upper part of the Bollinger Band. It looks like it's kind of hanging around at the upper Bollinger Band over here, and it just looks like it wants to go higher. If I have to look at and compare this cycle to like last cycle in terms of the Bollinger Band morphology, I would say that this over here looks like the squeeze over here, and then the little bit of a sideways consolidation with a little bit of a monthly Bollinger Band squeeze over here is kind of similar to what we're seeing over here, right? A little bit of Bollinger Band squeeze over here after price went sideways for about 3-4 months so far. We had like about 5 months so far. So this is not anything that we haven't seen before from the previous cycle. And we really haven't had any impulsive move from Ethereum. The sentiment for Ethereum actually still isn't that great. And I find it to be pretty bullish, and I continue to average up on Ethereum because I still think that it's a good buy under $4,000. And I'm going to keep buying. Obviously, I'm not going to buy like crazy like I did before, but I still find this to be a good opportunity. And if I have new fresh money coming in, I still find this to be a pretty decent risk reward ratio I want to get into, right? Now, if you also look at the weekly chart, now with the weekly chart, I can pull up this Turtle Trader, Turtle Pro EMA ribbon, which is basically going to be the 20 and the 50 EMA ribbon, right? The buy signal has happened really since around like March of 2023, and since then it's just been on. And what you're seeing here is really that the ribbon is thickening, and whenever it goes too far above, it just kind of back tests the ribbon. And so far, we're doing really nothing but a good back test so far. The whales are still in, even though it's kind of cooled down over here for the last few weeks. But the whales are still in, upwards like 85%, right? So it's right on top of a thick ribbon. Whales are still in, and the buy signal is still active. Overall, it's been making mostly higher highs and higher lows, except that it does have a little bit of a double top look over here. But I like the fact that this candle is very, very impulsive so far, and also like the fact that so far you have candles number 1, 2, 5, 3, 4, 5, 6. They're all inside candles of this big giant candle. Bears have 6 weeks to try to bring price to try and reverse this candle over here. They're unable to do it. So where is price at right now? It's stuck inside a bull market support band, and it's looking like it's still finding some pretty decent support. If you look at the Bollinger Band, it looks like it's squeezing. It's gone sideways for a few months. Looks like it wants to potentially break out. And to me, as far as I'm concerned, the primary trend is still up, right? Higher highs and higher lows for the most part. So I still find this to be a pretty decent bullish setup here. Looking at the Ichimoku cloud, it looks like initially I thought that perhaps the Tenkan around 3,400 could hold because the bears just look like they're just really kind of weak. They're trying to push down price on like low volume. They're not really able to push down that much further, and sure, like they continue to push down on low volume. So the lower volume it is, the lower it goes, I think the better opportunity would be. I think the better risk reward ratio would be if price continue to go down lower on low volume. Like if it ends up hitting like 32,000, 3,200, 3,100 down here like it did over here, back over here when it was sitting around like 2,800, that would have been a pretty decent buy opportunity because it was happening on declining volume, right? So as far as I'm concerned, I still think that this is a pretty bullish setup. And really anything that's under $4,000, I'm very comfortable buying. And if you want to look at my fundamental thesis for Ethereum, I did post a very long trend. Back then, I actually care enough to verbalize my thoughts on fundamentals. I have a bunch of things over here. I mean, it's a deflationary asset. It actually has utility, and it has a huge ecosystem. I really do think that smart contracts is going to be a thing. And especially when you talk about an AI narrative, eventually there's going to be a shift towards potentially using AI, perhaps for like smart contracts, things like that. I'm not going to talk too much about the fundamentals. All I'm going to say right now is I'm bullish on Ethereum. And also, if you also think about relatively, speaking in terms of Ethereum over Bitcoin, I think it's probably time for Ethereum to shine. If you look at a weekly chart of Ethereum over Bitcoin, if you just put up the Ichimoku cloud, you can see that you have a big, giant green candle over here. Ethereum has outperformed Bitcoin ever since May of 2024, just a couple months ago, right? And since then, the Ethereum over Bitcoin chart has just been stuck between the cloud as well as the baseline over here. It's just been oscillating around, but it looks like it wants to break into the cloud. It looks like it wants to do a little bit of a trend reversal, trend change. It looks like Ethereum wants to actually start outperform Bitcoin here in the foreseeable future. That's certainly a possibility, right? You can see that the entire time when Ethereum over Bitcoin chart was going down, you can see RSIs going up. There's a lot of bullish divergence that's being built up. And because of that, you have a lot of bullish energy that could potentially push through the cloud, maybe to the upper part of the cloud, and maybe even through eventually. And whenever that happens, Ethereum's going to fly. Either that or Bitcoin's going to drop and Ethereum doesn't go anywhere, which is, regardless, I feel like Ethereum's going to end up probably outperforming Bitcoin. And it has been, Ethereum has been outperforming Bitcoin because on Bitcoin is really trying to backtest this previous low over here, whereas Ethereum is still a little bit far away from that, right? Like you can see that you don't really need the Ethereum over Bitcoin chart to really prove that to you, but it still looked like a pretty decent setup overall. And I'm going to try to buy as much Ethereum as I can. And this is my number 5 buy for Q3 2024. Now, what is going to be my number 2? My number 2 is going to be another altcoin. Now, I'm not going to talk about altcoins. I'm just going to talk about these two, and then the rest are going to be stocks. So if you're not into altcoins, I'm sorry. I'm just going to go through these real quick, and then I'm going to move on to the next thing. Okay. Now, when we talk about Dogecoin, you really have to zoom out a lot further. When you zoom out a lot further, you can see that there really has been 3 cycles for Dogecoin, and cycle number 1, cycle number 2, cycle number 3, right? So far, we might be entering potentially cycle number 4 soon. What I mean by that is basically, if you look over here on the last cycle, you have a lot of these candles, about 12 candles here that are inside this big giant green candle over here, right? So bullish, bull trend, right? Consolidation. When you have consolidation, you have 12 inside quarterly candles. And the bears have a hard time breaking underneath this candle over here. You know what's going to happen next? Well, whenever things consolidated enough for about like 3 years, it could have a pretty significant bull trend and a nice bullish breakout, right? On huge volume. What is happening right now with Doge? Well, this candle over here, right? A green candle. Now you have inside candles number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and the 13th inside candle. Is this going to be the quarter where Doge could potentially break out? Maybe July, maybe August, maybe September. Who knows? Maybe, or maybe it's going to be the next candle after that. But I do feel that the entire bullish continuation here and the inside candles that we're seeing right now is really building up a lot of energy for it to potentially go a lot higher. Now, if you also look at the monthly chart, and you don't really quite have that crazy whale stuff over here yet, but you still have a pretty significant whale presence, around 70%, right? Just like the past cycles, basically Doge has 3 cycles so far, right? Each one of these are basically marked by an Adam and Eve bottom, Adam and Eve bottom, and an Adam and Eve bottom. Sometimes you have a little bit of a back test, sometimes you don't. Like right now, I think we're back testing the Adam and Eve bottom over here, right? This is the Adam, this is the Eve. Over here you have the Adam and Eve. You didn't really quite get the back test. It just kind of, went up a lot higher. And over here you didn't really quite get a back test either, right? But so far I think we're actually getting a little bit of a back test, which is actually not a unhealthy thing. If you do the Ichimoku cloud, and a very, very interesting thing that you're going to see here is that every single time for each of these cycles, you have price going consolidating sideways, and initially you're going to have the baseline or the kitchen going to be from above, right? And the Tenkan or the conversion line is going to be underneath, and you're going to end up having either the two lines merging, or you're going to end up having a bullish cross where blue is actually way above the red, or just above the red, and that's going to signify that, hey, price is consolidated enough and you're already looking like you want to build up a bull trend. So whenever you have this Tenkan Kijun cross like over here, that's bullish, right? And you also, if you look at this cycle over here, also have a very bullish Tenkan Kijun cross over here, right? And when you have that cross, it's bullish, right? Over here, this cycle is a little bit different from the last. You had the bullish Tenkan Kijun cross back in March of 2024, and since then it really hasn't had much of a follow through yet. But the bullish cross is still valid because Tenkan is still above Kijun, even though price is currently underneath both of those, right? So, but price underneath both of those doesn't really bother me because you can have price underneath both of those. It doesn't really take a whole lot for whales to come in and start pumping, right? Overall, after all, you've been consolidating sideways. I also want to show you this is also a big green candle, and so far, like 40 something candles of the monthly candle over here, they're all inside candles of this big green candle. So what is going to happen? I think it's going to have bullish continuation whenever that happens, right? I'm not going to worry too much about like the little stuff over here. Can price go down further to like 10 cents, 8 cents? It could. I doubt it would. If it does that, then so be it. I'll try to buy more. And this is all about I'm talking about quarterly buys, right? This is all about more patience than anything else. But I still see Doge as a pretty good setup. Now, I would say that I was buying down here, and certainly this is going to be like, another good spot to buy to me. I'm a buyer. I wasn't buying up here. I wasn't selling either. I guess I probably should have, but I was thinking more in terms of cycle. I don't like to trade in and out of Doge. Like sure, I lost a lot of opportunities in terms of gains. I didn't really take profits up here. What a fool, right? Like right now, price kind of went down 40% from the top part right there, and altcoin season's over. Apparently, a lot of people are saying that, and I guess Doge is going to end up dropping down to I'm kidding. I don't think that's going to happen, but another way to kind of look at cycles besides looking at the Ichimoku cloud is looking at the Bollinger Band. Where's the Bollinger Band doing? Well, you have a little bit of a squeeze right here. You have a squeeze right there. You do have the initial expansion because of this big giant move from like February to March, right? And I think that the expansion has led to a little bit of expansion of the Bollinger Band, but right now its price has kind of gone sideways for about 5 months now. So you're having a little bit of a tightening over here, but they're not really squeezing. I still think that this over here is still going to be very, very similar to over here because the 20-month moving average is still kind of, flat and pointing up over here, kind of like what it did over here before his parabolic run up, right? Is price going to go back down here to the 20-month moving average, like around the 10-cent area to back test? Possibly. I doubt it. It's, to me, as far as I'm concerned, it's still back testing this Adam and Eve pattern over here as far as I'm concerned, right? So Doge is still looking like a pretty decent setup here on the monthly. On the weekly, you are getting a lot more weakness, in terms of the whales, but whales are still greater than 50%. It's still not, bearish yet. And also, you look at the Ichimoku cloud, it's not going to tell you so much here. And if you look at the Super Ichi cloud, you can actually see that as right as support, right? Doge has just been back testing on top of the Super Ichi cloud over here. It looks like it's finding good support over here. So, and when it's at support, I generally lean more bullish. And if it ends up breaking down, then so be it, But at some point, you have to decide that you're bullish at support and you want to keep buying more. That's just kind of how it rolls. Looks like it completed this ABC correction after 5-wave kind of move. So this whole thing right there is probably like wave 1. This whole thing right here is probably wave 2. I'm still waiting for wave 3 to happen. Wave 3 is going to be the most impulsive wave on the way up in general, right? I think like over here, I can see like, maybe like this is like wave 1 over here. This is maybe like wave 3 somewhere around here. And then wave 5 is just a little bit, more truncated. But as far as I'm concerned, like I think this is wave 1. And I think this is wave 2. And wave 3 has yet to come. It's going to be the most powerful one that could come, right? So I like that setup for Doge, even though if you look at this, like, oh, it's forming some lower lows, like it looks like it's a bear flag, like all that stuff. You can look at it that way, or you can look at the fact that it's like as support. I do think that right now it looks very similar with the EMA ribbon look to it. It looks very similar to how it looked kind of over here before, like this parabolic bull trend up. It's just kind of at the beginning of the bull trend, so it's backtesting the bottom of the EMA ribbon of the 20-week EMA and the 50-week EMA. Right now, it's getting closer to like the 50-week EMA. Is basically finding support over there, and the EMA ribbon is still relatively thick, you know. So I think we're probably gonna end up finding support and probably gonna end up pushing a lot higher. But we'll see. I still find this to be a pretty decent setup here for Dogecoin, and I'm gonna try to buy more for Q3, even though I've been buying, quite a lot. But I'm not giving up on it, and I'm gonna add to my position at the current prices. Now, if things kind of get away from me, if it ends up hitting like 14, 15 cents or something like that, I might be a little bit more hesitant to buy. I'm actually liking where I'm buying right here. And if it ends up breaking underneath the Super HE Cloud, then so be it. Like the next support zone is probably going to be around 10 cents, right? So I feel like the potential risk is maybe lower than the potential reward. So I'm in it. I'm going to buy more. Now, that's Dogecoin. What is my number three? Let's talk about it. It's a stock. My number three is a stock that I've been talking about for a very long time. And it's a stock that has just been on a crazy downtrend ever since December 2023 when it hit around like $50. And since then it's gone down about 40%, and right now you're hitting at around $30, right? Pretty brutal, right? So like, are people just kind of selling out of it in big volume? Is there just a big giant exodus out of this stock because of the rate narrative? Because we don't know when the Fed's going to cut? Because Affirm is a stock that is rate dependent, even though the greatest rate fears was really over here when it made a very parabolic move, which doesn't make any sense to me at all. I don't really believe in the whole rate narrative. I'm sorry, I just don't. The way to think about Affirm is this. This is the US M2 chart, and this is basically telling you how much money is available in the USD denomination. And so far, we have had a trend change ever since October of 2023. This thing has been making nothing but higher highs and higher lows. Do you think rate matters more, or do you think global liquidity and US dollar availability matters more? Why do people talk about rates and don't talk about global liquidity? That I will never understand. But that's basically what they do. And I really don't care, I guess, right? Why do I think that Affirm is a good setup? I'm going to go to the 3-month chart again because this is a quarterly buy, right? For Q3 of 2024, this is the third candle of a series of something called a rising three, where you have a big giant candle over here with big volume, and you're allowing the bears to try to backtrack this over the next 3 quarters and see whether or not it does anything. And if they're not able to bring it down below this candle, if the downtrend happens on declining volume, the bulls are going to sniff it. Maybe after 2 candles of bearishness, the bulls are going to take over. Maybe after 3, right? Who knows? Maybe the next quarter is going to be the quarter. Maybe it keeps on dropping down to like 25, the low 20s. Who knows, right? I do have a feeling that I think we're getting close to the end of the crazy correction that's happened since December. Just looking at the volume, the lower it goes, I think the better opportunity the firm is. And if you also just kind of look over here on the monthly chart, I'm going to pull up the Ichimoku cloud here. We don't quite have the cloud yet, but we have the Tenkan Nikkei. We had a bullish crossover here. Price is underneath the Kijun though, so it's still serving as pretty bad resistance, even though price has been trying to wick above the Tenkan Nikkei for a couple months now, right? So it does look like it's trying to eat a lot of these supply above. But currently price is still underneath. You don't really have much of whalish momentum yet. But I still think that this is a still pretty decent setup. If you look at the Bollinger Band, you have a little bit of a contraction here because price has gone sideways for about like 8 months now. But the 20-month moving average is still pointing up, and it really looks like the downtrend is decelerating, doesn't it? It really looks like the downtrend is decelerating. So let's look and zoom in a little bit more in terms of what we're seeing here with Affirm. Now, it has gotten underneath the bull market support band, but it looks like it's been challenging it over and over again. And so far, because price has gone sideways for about 10, 11, 12 weeks now, it does look like the band's probably going to end up flattening. And in order for you to reverse a bear trend that you had, just like you did over here, you're going to need to kind of go sideways here for weeks and weeks, wait for vulnerability for the bull market support band to turn flat before you attack, right? Which is what I think Affirm is trying to do, is waiting for that vulnerability to try to attack. And that just hasn't quite happened yet. Now, the weekly Ichimoku cloud is not great because it did end up breaking underneath of the cloud. So the cloud's also going to be serving as a little bit of a resistance too, right? But the one thing that is really giving me hope is just look at the downtrend here on like pathetic volume. And there's still a lot of whales upwards to around like 70%. Like the whales never really left Affirm, which is also consistent with the fact that the whales have not really left Affirm. And you also have upwards to about 80% of institutional ownership when it comes to Affirm. So I think the big money in the institutions probably know something about Affirm that I don't know about. And that would be great to find out what it is, but sometimes I don't need to know exactly what it is. I just go with the flow, right? It also fell underneath the Super Ichi cloud, unfortunately. And it looks like it's just been trying to find time to break into the 2-week Ichimoku cloud. It's just been failing to do that for a very long time. And it looks like it's also underneath the Super Ichi Tenkan here, unfortunately, for the third month or the fourth month in a row. But so far, because of this is more like a volume play. This is because I really just don't buy the whole volume signal. I'm actually curious. I haven't looked at this. If I look at the on balance volume, you can see something that is very, very drastic. You have a very, very nice bullish divergence here, right? Where price kind of gone sideways and down, but the on balance volume is actually sideways and even go up, right? So because of this bullish divergence between on balance volume and price, I actually think that a firm's probably going to end up doing pretty decent moving forward, right? So I'm not really seeing that on a higher time frame, but that's okay. Like I just think that this is a pretty decent bullish setup based on volume, based on whales, and based on balance volume, with some bullish divergence, and just based on the fact that this whole sell off for the last 6-7 months has been really non-committal, and also based on the fact that this looks like a potential rising 2 or a rising 3. So this is a one of the setup that I don't mind. Currently, I'm still buying every week, and the lower it goes, the more comfortable I feel like buying because it's just been going on down in low volume. So that's Affirm. That is my number 3 buy. What is my number 2 buy? My number 2 buy is Shopify. Why do I like Shopify? Let's talk about it. Well, so far you also, on the quarterly chart, you also seem like you have 3 inside candles, and so far for this Q3, we're starting out with yet another inside candles, right? So 3 inside candles so far. Looks like we have a big green candle here, and bears had a chance to bring it down for 2 quarters in a row. They're unable to do it, and who knows, maybe the bulls might take over soon, right? So that's one thing to kind of look at here on the 3-month chart. You also see that the whales are also in, and they really haven't left, right? If you look at the monthly chart also tells you something that is very interesting. I'm going to pull up the Ichimoku cloud here, and you can see that so far with this uptrend over here, you can see that the whales are also entering in the entire way. And you do have a little bit of cool down really since like February 2024 when it got rejected from the monthly Ichimoku cloud after a bullish cross. Initially, I thought that the Tenkan was going to hold. It wasn't holding, and it backtested the Kijun down over here and found support. Right now, it's just range bound between the Tenkan and Kijun, but overall, it's still forming higher highs and higher lows, right? Higher high, higher low. Whales haven't left. And this still looks like a potentially a pretty decent setup. If you look at the Bollinger Band, again, 20-month moving average has served as pretty decent support, right? So this is nothing that I'm really that worried about by looking at the technicals. And if you also look at the weekly chart, there are some things that is trying to break above right now, like it's trying to turn the market support band flat so it can attack it and go back up further, right? It just hasn't really had the chance to do that. And the Bollinger Band looks like we've tested the bottom of the Bollinger Band. Looks like it bounced from it, retraced back to the mean, and retraced back to the mean. There's actually a pretty decent look because it's not really fully rejected down like that. If anything, it's trying to turn the Bollinger Support Band flat, kind of like what Tesla has been doing over the last many weeks. And it looks like Shopify is actually looking like it wants to do that too, right? And it looks like there's a lot of like demand wicks underneath of down here too. And it looks like so far there's an increase in uptrend over here, and you have some inside candles over here to consolidate, right? So far actually it looks pretty decent setup. In terms of the weekly, again, you still have greater than 50% whales down here, so that's still favorable. Looking at the EMA ribbon over here, we did end up breaking down below the ribbon around September, October 2023. And all of this just ended up pushing back up above, and we broke down again from the ribbon. And right now we're trying to reclaim the ribbon. We're just underneath of it. We're just basically eating a lot of supply above, and we're trying to get back above of it. That's what it's doing. I still think that it's again it's red resistance, right? So if you buy here, and I've been buying more down here, I really started a position over here, and I kept buying. I stopped buying over here. I started buying over here, and I stopped buying. And right now I'm starting to buy around here. So if I may, we are at resistance. So if you buy here, you do have to have the mental preparation that it could go down further. But the important thing is, how much further could it go? Well, it could go down to the bottom of the Ichimoku cloud, which is going to be around $60. I think that's going to be your risk level up here, right? But it also looks like it's trying to attack not just the market support band, but also trying to attack the Tenkan, right? It's trying to get back about the Tenkan. It's trying very hard. It's also trying to get back about the Ichimoku cloud over here too. So you know your downside risk, you know your upside risk. Overall, the trend is up because it's been making higher lows and higher highs. So this doesn't bother me in terms of entering the stock. I like where it is, and I'm gonna keep buying down here at this level, right? I still find this to be a very bullish setup. And if you also pull up some of the other indicators, for example, you pull up the RSI, you can see very clearly that the RSI has been resetting down on this big giant move all the way from like $30 all the way to like $60. Whereas RSI really actually has downtrended. So this is actually a very nice hidden bullish divergence that is setting up. So that's going to end up pushing a lot of bullish energy to kind of go up a lot further, because RSI has gotten reset, is getting back to around 50. And if it ends up developing a little bit of a bull trend here after forming a little bit of a bull flag, I think it would look very nice. I just wish that it was above some of the resistance level that I was showing, but it is what it is. I still find this to be stuck in a range, and it's trying to repair. It looks like a bull flag. Overall, it's higher low, higher highs, and I actually do believe in the fundamentals of Shopify. I'm not going to talk too much about it because I'm not the most eloquent at talking about that kind of stuff, but I actually do believe in the fundamentals of Shopify. I believe in their business model. I believe in their CEO. So I'm gonna buy whenever things just kind of went brutalized like this, and I'm gonna support the stock. I also want to make money from it, and if I enjoy the fundamentals, I'm gonna end up staying in it. It's been 30 minutes. I'm gonna give you a drum roll in terms of what my number one buy is gonna be for Q3 of 2024. Think about what it could be. It's actually not what you think. So this is TNA. TNA is a 3x small cap. It's basically a 3x version of IWM. And you're going to have a lot of decay because IWM is extremely volatile. It's extremely volatile. IWM, you can hold that, I guess it's okay. But certainly I would not hold TNA long term. And the reason why that is because IWM is extremely extremely cyclical. And when you're talking about something that is extremely cyclical, when you go up, you can gain 3 plus. When you go down, you can drop 3 times more. And every single time when you drop 3 times more, it actually takes a lot more for you to kind of reverse the the loss that you have from decay, right? So this chart over here, actually, it doesn't look great compared to IWM. Like rarely, I'm going to show you something here. IWM over TNA. Like over time, you're actually going to end up doing a little bit better. Like over the last, let's say you buy IWM since 2018 versus buying TNA over since 2018, you're gonna perform extremely well, like basically almost 3 times as well if you just stick with IWM. You don't want to just stick with TNA. You only stick with TNA if you feel extremely bullish about small caps. And do I feel extremely bullish about small caps? I do. So that's why I'm actually gonna enter, and I'm not gonna do anything crazy. If I have like a little bit of extra money, I do want to allocate that into TNA because I'm seeing some pretty bullish thing over here. And I'm gonna just chart here a little bit on TNA, but I'm gonna really mostly chart on the IWM to kind of show you in terms of why I think that bull cycle is coming for IWM, why I think that things are going to look pretty decent for IWM moving forward. And if you just look at the EMA ribbon, it looks like it's trying to reclaim it. It looks like the ribbon is turning green, right? I think we might be at the beginning of this oscillation phase, kind of very similar to the oscillation phase over here, right? I'm going to stick with IWM to kind of give you my technical thesis. I mean, just look at this. Look at IWM. Like you have a buy signal over here, and it's just been basically back testing the EMA ribbon going down. It is looking very, very nice, on the way up. And it looks very, very similar morphology like it did over here before big giant run up. And again, I was showing you this earlier. I'm not messing around here when I was saying that U.S. liquidity is increasing. U.S. liquidity is increasing. Like there's no doubt about it. What do I think is going to happen to IWM whenever U.S. liquidity is going up? Well, let's look at it, right? I'm going to basically try to compare IWM to the US dollar availability, right? I'm going to try to line up between these two, and sometimes it's a little bit harder to do. I think that's probably the best I can do. And I'm going to bring up a little bit like this, right? What you can see right off the bat, and I'm going to turn off the Ichimoku cloud here. What you can see right off the bat is that basically IWM is extremely sensitive to US liquidity. You can see this. Whenever you started having quantitative tightening is when you really start having IWM really dropping pretty significantly, right? And whenever you have either the US liquidity really like bottoming around, let's say April 2023, it's down, and the next thing you know, liquidity also make another lower low, and so did IWM over here, right? So I would say that is actually following the US liquidity pretty much extremely well. And the thing about IWM and the thing about US liquidity, well, do you think that US liquidity is up, or do you think it's going to go down? Why do people talk about rates all the time? Again, it's going to follow liquidity, right? And what is liquidity doing right now? I'm just going to get rid of this. I mean, like you basically see that this is like the same chart. So you play IWM, you're basically playing into liquidity. You're playing cycles. I'm going to get rid of the IW chart over here first. IWM, goodbye. Let's stick with US liquidity. Again, I showed this earlier. It's going up. There's no dispute that I think quantitative tightening is ending and the trend now is up. I think you have quantitative teasing. Easing is not quite there yet, but I think it's quantitative teasing. And I think it's going to happen. Pretty soon, I think this chart's going to keep going up higher. And what does that mean for IWM? That means IWM is going to keep going up higher too. Are we at a cycle, or the point of the cycle where things can go a lot higher? Let's look at it. Let's pull up some of the indicators here. I can put up the black hat. I haven't done this for a while. Put up the black hat fun here. Just looking at it, ever since the great financial crisis, you really basically have like maybe about 3 cycles, or 4 cycles. And whenever you have price kind of go sideways like this and you have whale accumulation going up, you're going to end up having like a little bit more explosive move, right? I think it's going to be a lot more apparent over here for this cycle where price basically has gone sideways here for about 8 months, right? Or 9 months or so. And the whale accumulation continues to go up. Like there's no dispute over here based on looking at the derivative of the whale fund flow, right? Price went sideways here for months, and you end up having a gap up candle over here, right? This gap up over here, this gap has still not been closed ever since January 2013. So I think it's probably going to keep going higher. If you have price going sideways over here and whale accumulation continues to go up, right? When was another instance where price gone sideways and whale accumulation continues to go up? Over here for about 4 months or so, price went sideways and whale accumulation continues to go up. Next thing you know, this big giant green candle over here in November 2016, right? What about over here? 3 or 4 candles going sideways, right? Whale accumulation continues to go up. What happened? Big giant green candle over here in November 2020, as soon as they announced that there's a possibility of COVID vaccine, right? So what's happened so far? Price went sideways for months number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, this is a diamond top. This is going to go back all the way down. But what's happening behind the scene? Whales are coming in. Like you can't make this up, right? So what's going to happen next? I don't know. Like you tell me. I have no idea. I'm just going to place my money where I think may end up working out pretty well. Looking at MCDX Plus, same thing. Whenever you have a big giant run up, you're going to have a little bit of consolidation, but whales are going to end up building up a little bit over here. Whales are going to end up building up a little bit over here, right? And whales are going to build up a little bit over here. Looks like whales have been building a little bit over here too, right? So I think this is a very, very good chart. Looks like it wants to go up a lot higher. And I'm also going to pull up the Ichimoku cloud here. There are also a couple of things to look at in the Ichimoku cloud. First thing in the Ichimoku cloud is whenever it has a cloud bounce from the top of the cloud, generally it means that there might be a start of a potential bull market that's coming up, for anywhere from like 3 to 4 years, right? Sometimes shorter, right? But usually anywhere from like 3 to 4 years in general. Like bounce from the top of the cloud up, bounce from the top of the cloud up, bounce from the bottom of the cloud, retest the top of the cloud up, right? What's happening over here? Well, we went to the bottom of the cloud, bounce, and we bounced from the top of the cloud, right? So which way do you think it's going to go after that? Is it going to go straight up? Well, it certainly doesn't seem like it's like this over here or this over here. Maybe it's just going to sliding sideways over here like it is over here. But it looks like we just bounced from the top of the cloud. So we found support here. The next level is probably going to be this previous all-time high because we found support, and it's probably going to end up gravitating up towards the next level, right? There's also the bullish Tenkan Kijun cross here, where blue crosses back above the red over here, right? Whenever it cross 3 months of bull market over here, whenever it cross 3 years of bull market, 2 years of bull market. Over here, you have a little bit of, like a little bit of a trend oscillation, and then COVID happened, right? I think if it wasn't because of that, you had a bullish cross over here around like September 2019. I think that would have ended up having basically 2 years of bull market on the way up over here, but eventually it had to play catch up, right? That's unfortunate. But over here, what do we just have? Well, let's look at it. We had blue crossing back about the red, right? We have a bullish Tenkan Kijun cross over here. So is this diamond going to end up being a diamond continuation pattern? Or is this going to be a diamond top? I don't know. You tell me. Another way to look at this monthly chart is looking at the Bollinger Band. If you're looking at the Bollinger Band, what I'm really looking at is more the 20-month moving average. Whenever it starts to flatten or go down and it starts to go up again, generally you start a very, very powerful bull trend to last for years, right? Flatten, go down a little bit, pointing up again, bull market for a couple of years, right? Flattening down and then go up again, bull market for a year and a half, right? Downtrending and then uptrending again. Maybe bull market for another 2 or 3 years. That's a possibility. I don't know. You tell me, right? So overall, I still think. Let me look at the Tsubichi cloud. The Tsubichi cloud just basically looks like it's bouncing from the bottom of the cloud over here to the top of the cloud. It back tested it. Looks like it wants to run. When does it want to run? Is it going to be this month, next month, the month after that? I do not know for sure. But it just looks like it's trying to do something bullish, right? Again, the EMA ribbon, you get a lot of noise over here on the weekly. But if you look at the monthly chart on the EMA ribbon, and this is done by Turtle Pro plus by Turtle Trader, Whenever you end up having a buy signal, it keeps on going up for a couple of years. Buy signal, a year and a half. We just had a buy signal that just happened not long ago, around March of 2024, right? So I can't make this up. IWM is cyclical, right? If you worry about the underperformance of IWM over the large cap stocks, I'm going to say don't worry about it. I'm going to tell you why I'm not worried about it. And instead of looking at IWM, I actually want to look at the Russell over SPX. And I've drawn this before. I'm going to basically get rid of this turtle EMA ribbon over here. I'm even going to get rid of this MCDX Plus because it doesn't really tell you what I'm trying to tell you. And I'm going to turn on the RSI. I'm going to show you what I was really seeing over here, right? And this is a monthly chart. So what I'm really seeing over here is this. People say that the Russell 2000 or IWM has always underperformed large caps. Is that always the case? The answer is no. From around 1999 all the way up to around 2014 or even 2011, 2014, small caps has been outperforming large caps by a significant margin until you start having a longer term cycle rotation away from away from small caps to large caps, because you're talking about this Russell 2000 over SPX chart, over S&P 500 chart. There's a rotation that happened. The reason why is because there's a significant bearish divergence that's happening, right? As Russell still outperform large caps here a little bit, the RSI is really looking like it's exhausting, right? And you're also looking at over here, after it exhausted, after this trend change, and it just went on parabolically downwards, right? Like, so that's why over the last 10 years, everybody has recency bias thinking small caps can underperform large caps, and that's just what happens. Well, it's just what happens over the last 10 years. It's not always the case, right? And what are we seeing right now? We're seeing kind of like the reverse. We're seeing, instead of a bearish divergence over here, we're actually seeing a bullish divergence where RSI is going up and the ratio is going down. So I'm not saying that this is going to be it and it's going to keep on shooting up like that, because even over here it made a little bit of a double top right before trend change, right? So I can see that it might take some time for Russell 2000 or IWM to kind of catch up and maybe even form a little bit of a double bottom against S&P 500 before going up higher. So what I'm really seeing here, though, is that we're seeing a lot of bullish momentum that's being built up on this downtrend, and the trend's not going to be like that forever. It's just like the trend's not going to be like this forever. It just keeps on going up, right? It looks like it's just way too far, way too fast down the other way. And at some point, I think this bullish diversion is going to end up playing out, and I think IWM is going to shine again. Would I want to enter IWM before it really truly shines? Yes, I do. So I'm going to start putting in some money for the triple leverage IWM, the TNA. Again, I do want to reiterate that this is a trade. This is not a long-term investment, right? Because if you would have bought TNA from November of 2013, you would have made absolutely no money at all. And that would have been a lot of opportunity cost, right? Because from then going all the way up to now, the S&P 500 basically tripled. So something to think about, but it could be a pretty darn good trade. Imagine if you bought the TNA over here around $32 before it broke out. Within about 5-6 months or so, your money tripled, right? If you imagine you bought over here before this big giant green candle breakout around November 2016, your money would have tripled, right? Imagine if you were to bought over here before the gap up around $16, your money would have tripled, right? So this could potentially be a tripling play, if you will. And when it happens, it could potentially happen pretty fast, either within half a year, like I don't think this is necessarily going to happen again, or within like the year or two. I think it can end up, performing relatively well, right? Potentially three times. It's possible. Is it going to happen? I don't know. I'm going by cycles. I'm showing you what I see. I'm bullish on IWM for the most part. It's forming higher highs and higher lows. It looks like it wants to do a trend change based on Ichimoku Cloud, based on Bollinger Band, based on EMA Ribbon, based on Super Ichi Cloud, based on the fact that we are having more whalish momentum coming in. It looks like this is going to play out, but nobody really knows for sure. So just understand that you just have to decide what you want to do with your money while they're diluting it by printing more. Anyway, I'm done talking about my top 5 buys. I hope you enjoyed this video. It's a little bit longer, but I just figure you might like it, so I don't care. Anyway, have a good one. Bye.